glorious day. We welcome you. What I want to do today is I want to share with you a story about a couple that has really touched my heart, and I believe they're going to touch your heart as well. Sometimes people come into your life and they're a messenger that oftentimes it's the humble ones that really be able to share with you what God is really doing in their lives. This family has stepped out not once, not twice, but now for the third time. And we are going to hear how God is going to be able to work in the lives of this family in such a beautiful way. It's very transcending. I want to welcome you to the Oswald family. Christy and Steve, tell us about yourselves and tell us a little bit about what your life is like here at the Oswald homestead.
Well, we both grew up moving kind of from place to place for different reasons, but my mom was in retail purchasing, and so we moved from job to job. Probably lived in 5 different places before I finished high school. And grew up always living in town, in city. My mom grew up in a farm background, so I have some stories about it, but never lived in the country myself. When Christy and I got married, we lived in town. Our first 3 residences were all in town, and then we decided that we wanted space. We wanted to not worry that the kids were going to go outside and play. We wanted to just have room for them to roam around, and for myself, I wanted them to realize that things that we use are made by someone. They're created by someone. It's not, they're not made by the store. You hear stories about people say, they buy beef from the grocery store because that's where they make it. No, it's not. I wanted the kids to have that grounding and that idea. So we looked for a couple of years and finally found our farm and moved out almost 4 years ago.
Yeah. And it started off, we wanted to do something in our price range and being good stewards of what we had. And so we bought a farmhouse that was built in the 1880s on 9 acres of land. We were able to afford it because it needed a lot of work. Structurally very sound. It was mostly cosmetic things, but a lot of renovations. So that's been kind of being done as we go and things. It was perfectly fine for us to live in while we did all this. So it's been an entire journey under construction.
Oh, yeah.
Tell me about the children. How many children do you have?
We currently have 8 children. Alex is our oldest, and he's 16. He's our biological son. Zeri is next. Zeri is 15. He'll be 16 in a few months. He was adopted 3.5 years ago from Ethiopia. Aman is next. He just turned 15, and he's been home for 1.5 years, adopted from Ethiopia. Next in age is Kiley. Kiley is 13. She's our biological daughter. She and Aman both have type 1 diabetes. That kind of our experience with her having been diabetic since she was 6 really enabled us to adopt Aman, because at our house we knew what we were doing and we knew we could manage that. Where for other families that was a leap. So Kiley's 13. Then comes Tsion, who is 11. She'll be 12 in a couple months, and she was adopted from Ethiopia 1.5 years ago. Then comes Solomon, and he is 11. He'll be 12 in June, so a couple more months, 2 months after that, after Sion's birthday. And he was adopted from Ethiopia with Zeri 3.5 years ago. Then Ben is Aman's little brother, so he's been home 1.5 years. He's 11. And Faith is our youngest child currently, and she is 11, younger than Ben by 11 days, and she's our biological daughter.
So I have to ask you, how do you do it?
I think the first time we knew we wanted to adopt the boys, we had learned the boys through a missions pastor, and we wanted to adopt the boys. We had no idea about international adoption. We kind of laid it all at God's feet and said, we're willing to do it. I'll just keep taking the next step, but you're going to have to get us through it. And I'm kind of glad at the time we didn't know everything that was to come, because it is overwhelming. That's actually what made the second adoption harder, was
Yeah.
we knew what we were getting into.
Yeah, all the paperwork, all the appointments, all the places you have to go to get this piece of paper, get that appointment done, get fingerprinted by Homeland Security, all these different things you have to do. If you don't know it ahead of time, you just get a letter or a note or a packet from the adoption agency. Okay, here's your next thing. Oh, okay, and you do it. Mm-hmm. Looking back or looking forward, doing it again is a lot more daunting. Because you know, oh my gosh, we're going to end up with a 3-ring binder full of forms and papers.
Christy and Steve, thank you so much for sharing with us all of the things that are happening in your life. And as you're preparing for this third adoption, tell us, what are your needs that you have at this time?
You know, the fees, even with, you know, they've cut some of the fees because one of the little girls has significant special needs. We're still looking at about $14,000 in fees to the adoption agency that handles the international portion. And then there'll be fees to the embassy. That'll be about...
Country fees are about $3,000.
Yeah.
$3,000.
That we take with us when we
Yeah.
go. And
Travel expenses, of course.
Yep. Pay for their medicals over there.
Yeah.
We will actually be fingerprinted and cleared by Homeland Security. We laugh and say we have
Again.
an FBI clearance, but we will. That's another $900 all total, I think, something like that.
So
By the time that's done, so you know, it adds up. Ordering more birth certificates because they want them recently printed, which, you know, isn't too bad when you think of it. It's $12 to $20 a copy, but there's 10 of us and we need at least 2 of them. So, you know, it gets to be, I think we figured roughly by the time we're done, we're probably looking at a total of about $25,000 altogether. You know, we're taking it in steps, and God has walked alongside us and made it very clear, even when we go, God, we can't afford this. I mean, we don't have this laying around. And I mean, we've done it twice already. We know with the last 2 adoptions altogether, we've spent $80,000. We don't have that. And you can see the house. We don't have that. We're not poor, but we don't have that laying around. And God has miraculously stepped forward every single time, one way or another. And He does require sacrifice. It is required. We worked hard. We took extra hours. We took advantage of any opportunity we could. But God really takes care of that. And so we're real careful to look at any opportunity, even an opportunity for work, is provision.
right.
That's God's gift to do this. And
It's a great quote from Dave Ramsey. You know what he says. My grandmother always said, "It's a great place to go when you need money. It's called work. Go to work."
Christy and Steve, thank you so much for sharing with us what you are preparing to do with your third adoption, and really about the whole story of how your family has really changed and impacted the lives of these 5 children already. I have to sit here and just say, wow, because I don't know how many of us could have actually comprehended what it really takes to, one, first of all, make that kind of a commitment, and then to, on a daily basis, know that there are a lot of things that you're involved with and a lot of things that it takes to, you know, teach the children. As you've shared with us, it was pretty remarkable, things that we take for granted. With the needs that you shared with us, it's really important that we want to be able to present to you as well, the viewer, that you hear about the story and about how it might be touching your heart. And Christy and Steve definitely have some really big needs here. If God is speaking to you in any way, we just ask you to just, you know, prayerfully, one, lift them up in prayer, because, you know, we know the power of prayer is going to be very, very powerful in that aspect, and just covering their needs. If you are feeling that you want to sow seed into this adoption, the beautiful thing is that when we sow seed into families, God blesses us in a different way, because, you know, He's the one who is really designed families, and we want to be able to ask you to just open up your heart, and as again, we just want you to just really put it into prayer. And we're going to have opportunities for you to hear of some of the options that you can be able to help support this venture. And I often think about the the two little girls coming and with their heart's desire to want to be able to adopt a special needs child. And I reflect on the part that, you know, as we get introduced to who Jesus are, we really are a special needs child. And as he's adopted us into his family, we now are able to be transformed in so many ways. And I think that's a very beautiful thing that I know many of us have experienced, and are looking forward to being able to share with you the story of these two special little girls that will be joining the Oswald family very shortly. Well, God bless, and we thank you for taking this time with us, and we just send you well wishes.